Hello, poor people. How are you today? In tonight's discourse, I'll explain to you two strategies to improve your business. It's going to be direct as usual, and one of the key reasons you should listen to me is because we approach problems with unique solutions. What you're about to hear is not some regurgitated fact on the internet, distilled with anecdotes and personal stories to retain engagement. What you're about to hear has never been said. This is communication at its finest. Please, if you're a business owner and you struggle to get to the next level, it's most likely your solution is contained in what I'm about to share. You see, as a young man, confident and arrogant, I thought I don't need anyone, I don't need mentors, I don't need relationship. All I care about is self-sufficiency. How wrong was I? How wrong was I? You might sustain that posture as a consequence of previous success, because I'm telling you, that mindset spurs you to do things unimaginable. The ego that you're self-sufficient spurs you to prove a point. You work as hard as possible. You're willing to sacrifice relationship, dedication. You do not see failure. In fact, in your own mind, it's only failure if you stop. But my friend, you can persist in doing the wrong thing. Doesn't mean it will work. Another definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. You can either drop your ego, listen, take correction, and move on, or stay in that pride, keep persisting, and watch other people who you're more qualified scale past you. So in other words, listen very carefully. I've said it countlessly that information are vehicles that ferry you to the next level. Information or otherwise is what keeps you grounded or takes you from a current situation. Very recently, I was in a 5-star hotel. First time I've been there. And I struggled to turn on the light bulb. And for so long, I was in darkness as a consequence of pride. I struggled to find where the light bulbs are or the light switch is. Of course, I saw some techie screen thingy on the wall. Upon click, something very interesting happened. It was like a small mobile device and there were a lot of applications upon it. In my mind, what does application have to do with a light switch? And that's how I struggled in dark. So from an external perspective, you might think I'm enjoying, but internally I'm suffering as a consequence of the lack of knowledge. I called upon the room service and she went to that tech thingy and just swiped right. And it's as though the bulb knew the assignment. It followed the hand transition. So to the degree in which the slide is vastly proportional to the level of illumination. Now, if we extrapolate that hypothesis to our discourse, you can sit and be arrogant and be proud and not seek for help, stay in the darkness although you spent hundreds of thousands of dollars for that experience, or you can be polite and ask questions. Which is more easier? Which is profitable? Exactly. So the first, if you struggle with your business, the first thing to do is to become a high consumer of your product or service. Let's be honest. Once you start a business, it's most likely it's going to be friends and family who would be your patron. And in this seeker-friendly world, very few individuals can be honest. That's why wealthy people value honesty. Every wealthy man has a small circle whom they rely upon. They're smart enough to understand that most people want things from them and they're willing to be subservient to any response in order to get that benefit. To be a high consumer of your product is in the consumption of your product you find pain points before, after, and during the use. Is in the consumption you find areas of improvement, you find flaws. Very recently, a friend of mine who sold wall balls, he imports from China, has his brand logo upon it, and sells for X amount. But something interesting happened when he decided to change the shape of the bowl. The new one was an improvement, like he improved it aesthetically. And after that improvement, sales began to decline. He reached out to me, we tried as much strategy as possible. Upon innumerous failure, and after thousands of dollars in wastage, I told him to offer me a sample. And the next day, by the time I took it out of the refrigerator, a sip, it tasted like chemicals. So the plastic had melted with my water. The chemicals had fused with my water, making it taste absolutely horrible. Now, I might not be able to scientifically explain why that is. I'm sure there's some dog, some nerd out there who can give you a detailed explanation as to why that is. But one thing I can say that is logically clear, the water tasted like chemicals. That in and of itself is a problem. When I shared the story and highlighted my new identification, he discarded thousands of dollars worth in inventory and proceeded to rectify the situation, which leads us to number 2. Correction, doing the right thing, or speed. So for the sake of explanatory purpose, let's say doing the right thing. Most individuals, especially as a startup, they're most likely trying to maximize capital, and they would refuse to discard inventory worth hundreds of thousands of dollars just to solve a problem. No, most people won't do it. Please understand, water bottle. Understand the price point of a water bottle, let alone worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in inventory. Understand that this is not the selling cost. I'm talking of the cost price. Hundreds of thousands of dollars lost. It's a huge loss for water bottle industry. Yet he was able to discard. As a consequence, sales improved even more than it was previously. So the speed, the degree in which you rectify the problem that was identified heavily correlates to your success. Even in a tech firm or some kind of software app, decision makers stall, they wait, they wonder, because there are always few individuals engaging in the feature that's about to be caught. So that few individuals is enough for them to persist in the wrong direction as opposed to try something new. Maybe this has to do with psychology, because as you know, the brain loves that which is familiar, although it's to its detriment. So you would prefer to be fat, be lazy, be broke, as opposed to try something new. Now, you might not verbally admit it, but once you observe your actions objectively, you'll find this to be the case. I want to be successful. I want to be rich. Observing your actions, you know that's a lie. I've taught it here. Your thoughts create action. Action produces results. Result leads to the ultimate quality of your life. When you want to change something, what do you change? Exactly. So you're going after the wrong thing. A huge chunk of you believe change is getting a new Gucci bag or a new device or something external. But in truth, that's wrestling with effect. You do not solve problems by solving problems. You solve problems by finding the cause of the problem and providing solution. That's how to solve problems. Those are the two ways to improve your business. The first, what's the first one? Say it. What's the first one? Say it. What's the first one? Be a heavy consumer of your product. The second, speed, ability to do the right thing once the problem is identified. As always, my friends, it's a pleasure speaking to you. I'll see you in the next one.